So welcome guys to the Volvo V90 Cross Country B6 mild hybrid all-wheel drive Pro. Quite a mouthful, I know, but this is also a car that has a lot to offer, so it deserves to have a long name, I guess. And yeah, I wanted to drive this car because I always had a bit of a sweet spot for these race wagons. I don't know if you are a long-time subscriber, you might remember that I did two really popular reviews of the Audi A4 Allroad way back when I started my channel. And I always considered them a very interesting alternative to all these SUVs that people are buying nowadays, you know. I still think that chassis-wise, something like an estate car is usually engineered better than most SUVs. And we get all these freak SUVs these days that are completely neglecting or going away from their intended purpose, you know. A few weeks ago I drove the BMW X3M competition, and the suspension of that car was so horrible for a daily driver. It was not able to deal with road imperfections despite having adjustable dampers, that I was really thinking, what was BMW doing there, you know? So I wanted to get into something that is, you know, intended to be comfortable but also offers a lot of space, and I think this V90 Cross Country is a very interesting car. So where do I start here? I think Volvo has evolved a lot as a brand in the past few years. They have a unique philosophy design-wise, but also when it comes to their powertrains. And I'm not even talking about the new Polestar brand, which is a completely different chapter. I just think they've really done a nice job on their design language in the past few years. And this V90 for me is definitely one of the most attractive cars in its segment. I think the rear especially, whenever I see one of these passing me on the Autobahn, I'm thinking this looks better to me than the German competitors. You know, the E-Class, A6 and the 5 Series BMW are all nice cars and look attractive, but they are not, for me, when it comes to the tail, as cool looking as this Volvo here. You can discuss that in the comments, but design is a big thing for me with Volvo cars, you know. They always had this boxy and solid looking design, which is still there, but it has become more stylish, you know, more fashionable over the past few years. And that's something that also can be found in the interior, I think. The interiors of their cars are very, very attractive, and this one here is no exception. Being a press car, this is of course fully loaded and has a few very interesting options on it that I want to mention here quickly. First and foremost, this gray ash wood paneling here feels super, super nice to touch and looks, yeah, cool. I like that you find a different sort of material and design language in this car. And that also goes for the seats. The seats are the sport seats, and they have a special high quality wool as their fabric, which is something that I've never heard about. But it's an interesting alternative to leather seats, for example, I would say, you know. Not sure how they will stand up over many years of usage. I'm a little bit doubtful there, but probably I shouldn't be. But yeah, they feel really nice, the material breathes, you know, and it's just a different thing, you know. It's interesting. I like the way it feels and the way it looks inside here. And yeah, we also have contrast stitching. We have this really, really powerful Bowers and Wilkins sound system, which is one of the loudest ones that I've ever experienced in any car. And I know that's not something to judge the quality of a sound system by, but the quality of the sound stays in this, you know, high quality window even when you pump up the volume to the max. And yeah, I only know that from the high quality systems by Burmester that are in Porsche cars, for example. They are usually my favorites when it comes to, yeah, to sound systems. Harman Kardon, Bang and Olufsen are nice too, but I don't think they have the same quality when you really pump up the volume as high as you can. And I'm personally somebody that really enjoys loud music in a car when I'm not driving sporty and just sitting on the cruise control doing Autobahn driving. And yeah, especially when I want to do some efficient driving, I enjoy pumping up my music and yeah, just enjoying my driving that way. And yeah, of course, this being a Volvo, there's a ton of space in this car. I'm very comfortable being 6'4" in these sport seats here, which have many adjustments. And it's just a feeling of being calmed down when you're in this car, you know. There's something relaxing about the environment that you're sitting in here, and I really like the high quality feel of it. It's absolutely there with the German brands, maybe even higher, you know. everything is rock solid, I have to say. So yeah, quality, experience, design, I think is something very, very attractive about Volvo that deserves more mentioning. It's not something that I take for granted. I think they've done a really, really excellent job over the past few years and made their cars much more attractive. So let me talk a little bit about the powertrain in this car, because that's also something interesting about Volvo's philosophy. They are only using 4-cylinder engines in their cars anymore. And yeah, I know in big cars especially, that's not something that sounds very satisfying. But this car here, being a hybrid, actually surprised me with, yeah, the low-down shaft that it has. So you don't miss power in this car, simply because it has an electric motor that adds 40 Newton meters and 14 PS. And that basically helps you to have an instant torque experience from low down, basically accelerating from a standstill, and makes this powertrain actually really comfortable. The petrol engine itself has 300 horsepower and makes 420 Newton meters, so pretty basic stuff. Some hot hatches have that these days, and I mean, this is a heavy car that weighs probably well over 2 tons when it's, you know, fully gassed up and has a driver in it. But yeah, you get a claimed acceleration from 0 to 100 of 6.4 seconds, and the car definitely feels that fast to me, you know. It's not something that has any lag, or yeah, something that I experienced with the Audi S7, for example, when you start accelerating and you miss power. That's not the case in this car. Driving, it is a very, very comfortable powertrain, I have to say, with this automatic transmission here that shifts really smoothly and intuitive. Never felt like using the manual mode in this one here, actually, I have to say. And it picks up so nicely low down that you don't have to do high revs really at all, you know, unless you really are demanding overtaking or something like that on the Autobahn where you want to drive faster. But in normal driving, you spend most of your time well under 3000 RPM, and therefore you're not bothered by the 4-cylinder sound, which is not that attractive in a luxury car, I have to say, as much as you would expect. This is a very quiet and comfortable powertrain. The only flaw that I find is the fact that this car is limited to 180 kilometers per hour on a speed limiter, actually. And yeah, that's a luxury problem that only German people have, but 180 is a comfortable traveling speed for me. But in a big luxury car where I'm paying so much money, I definitely want something that doesn't have a limiter and want to be able to know how fast it actually would go. You know, I think with 300 horsepower, 230 or 240 kilometers per hour should not be a problem for a car like this. And yeah, sitting at an indicated 185 is not as satisfying, and you are often going to experience that there are much smaller and much cheaper cars that will, you know, tailgate you when you don't have the overtaking power. It's just a little bit unsatisfying for me, and yeah, therefore, in my opinion, the biggest flaw about this car. I understand Volvo is all about safety, but this is a bit too much for my taste. But yeah, so be it. Let's talk about the chassis, because I mentioned comfort a lot in this review, and the capability of this suspension being raised to deal with road imperfections is definitely improved, I think, in comparison to a standard V90. And that's just a nice thing, you know. But at the same time, when you are cornering, it doesn't feel like a big compromise to me. You have a steering that is very accurate, and that's something that I've mentioned in other reviews too, really does help you to subjectively shrink the car down a bit, you know. So a good steering in a big car like this is very important, because yeah, just subjectively it makes the car smaller when you have something that you can place very accurately on the road, and makes it just easier and nicer to drive. And the Volvo steering here is done very nicely. The balance of the suspension being comfortable and still having a good dynamic ability here is better judged than in some of the predecessors, which I didn't like that much. I always felt like Audi did a much nicer job in the segment of, you know, not making you feel compromised dynamically, but giving you a suspension that is more comfortable than in the standard one. When it's wet like today, you will will experience understeer quite quickly in this car, I have to say. I'm not sure if it's from the tires that are mounted on it or if that's just the Volvo safety philosophy here, but the understeer was coming a little bit earlier than I expected from something as heavy that, you know, puts as much load on its tires. That's something that I could criticize, but I think most people will be fine and won't drive into this window, you know, where this car starts to understeer and actually not use its rear-wheel drive ability from the all-wheel drive system as much as some of the German competitors. So yeah guys, a very interesting car in my opinion, a very attractive daily driver, and now I want to hear your thoughts on this car. Do you want to see more reviews of this type of car? I mean, there's the Audi A6 Allroad and there's also the Mercedes E-Class All-Terrain, which, yeah, I would be interested to see how they stand up in comparison to this V90 cross country now that I've driven it again. And yeah, you can definitely tell me that in the comments. But also check out some of the other reviews that I've done this year. There are many new uploads and I feel like some of you guys have missed them, you know. So I will put a link into the description where you can check out a playlist with all the new videos, and every bit of feedback on those is appreciated. So I wish you safe driving here in the autumn time, and yeah, stay healthy, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.